Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to Beyond the Veil, a podcast on psychic protection, spiritual hygiene, and navigating the ebbs and flows of the healing journey as you learn to master both your sovereign and shadow selves. My name is Lauren on Earth, your host, and I started to record at 1:11, so we are right on time, right where we need to be. Today's topic is all about artificial intelligence. It's a theme for so many of my clients these past few weeks, really, this whole eclipse Scorpio season, the past few months. So I felt this was kind of an important topic to talk about because it's so relevant. And we're also going to get into the difference between light technology versus artificial intelligence. So I just want to preface that there's a lot to this topic, and this will be a continued conversation. But the type of AI I'm mainly addressing today is the technology that is used by higher dimensional service to self consciousness groups, as well as our own government, because for one, the government has contracts and relationships with some of these beings in exchange for their technology. Like the Greys, the deal is human DNA for technology, amongst other things, because I know it's not as simple as that. But I'm putting higher dimensional in quotations because technically they do exist in a dimension higher than the third, but we're talking mainly fourth to sixth dimensional beings. And it's not just the government. You have people here in human bodies who are these higher dimensional beings, these reptilian souls, these archon souls. And I'm not talking about higher dimensional as in loving and intelligent, but just higher dimensional as in they exist, in the third to sixth dimension. So we're in the third dimension, but our souls are of much higher dimensions. We're connected to much higher dimensions. And the thing is, they really aren't. Their souls can't connect to higher dimensions. They are blocked from that because of the way they choose to live their life and the path that they've chosen for evolution. So they're not connected to the higher intelligence in the same way. Obviously, the higher you go in terms of dimension, the more God codes there are, but they're using it to be in service to self. So if you think about how advanced technology is just on the third dimension, especially the advancements over the last 10 years, which also questionable because that was fast. Were they developing it, or were they just releasing it to the public and they've been sitting on this technology? ChatGPT tells me they're just telling us about it now because what was this technology and where was this? If you think back to a decade ago, 20 years ago, how little technology we had. So food for thought. But anyway, when you go into higher dimensions, the technology also begins to look different. Technology can be incredible and support the expansion of human consciousness, but it can also suppress the expansion of human consciousness. It can make you healthy or it can make you sick. I do not believe that we are using technology in the way that we can, in the way that is actually accessible to us to further evolve humanity. I feel like it is being used for quite the opposite. Honestly, of course, there are advancements in technology that are supporting longer lifespan in some ways, even though it's being counterbalanced with the technology that they are putting in our atmosphere. But it's happening, but not to the degree that it could. And I learned this when I first went to Tulum and I saw someone there. I've talked about this before, the bioresonance, right? Who has this machine who scans my body using frequencies, and it provides this list of all possible illnesses and imbalances, and then corrects those imbalances through the machine, through the frequency. Why is that not everywhere? So then, as I was exploring Arcturus back in 2020, 2021, and they're showing me how they use all of this technology to keep themselves in balance and in a state of harmony, kind of like this machine. And they have their own version of this machine. And that when one individual in the collective consciousness on Arcturus begins to dip into that level of consciousness, or in a lower level of consciousness, or, there's something coming up that they need to work through, they are supported and can go into these chambers and use these machines and this technology to recalibrate. It's not just in these chambers, but it's technology throughout their entire system where it's cleaning and purifying the energy of the collective. That's a technology. And just imagine that we had that, because life would look a lot different. And I'm looking at the clock and it's 1, 2, 3. So they also have this technology on ships. If you guys have explored the ships of the Arcturians that are in our atmosphere, these healing chambers to keep their energy and vitality up, this technology to help purge and transmute difficult and challenging energy. And we are opening a channel for that technology to reach us as best it can from them. At least that's what I do. But we don't have access to that technology in the same way. So when I'm talking about light technology that I'm using and working with the galactic technology, I am, one, strengthening my relationship to these councils and these groups that I'm working with, because it is a partnership, right? And I am opening the space, and as much as I can, and it has immensely grown over the years of what I used to be able to bring down in terms of the technology and now. So we have access to this. And what I've been told about it is that it can heal almost anything. And that's what was shared with me. Of course, it takes time to see that shift, but I do believe I'm a testament to it, because I've been working with it for the last 4 years and have made immense progress on my physical body, my overall well-being and evolution, and my light and Ka body. So this is light technology. Sound bowls are light technology. Crystals are light technology. Really, any healing frequency, I feel you could consider a technology, because it's a tool that is improving our livelihood. It's an intelligence, a living conscious intelligence, and it is aligned with universal and cosmic forces. It is in harmony with nature and energetic laws. While artificial intelligence is not a pure vibrational energy, but has been created by another through digital mechanical systems, often without regard for energetic alignment or harmony, because it's doing the opposite of that. So it's used to create advancement, efficiency, but ultimately it is independent of user consciousness, whether they want to admit that or not. They're trying to change that. And it's a little scary that they're getting close, but ultimately it can mimic certain aspects of human behavior and make decisions based on data and patterns, but lacks true consciousness. While light technology is much more integrated with one's energy field and works in cooperation with natural forces. So if we look up the definition of technology, and it feels like they're trying to condition us to believe this when this isn't the full truth. I feel like they're explaining light technology under the definition of artificial intelligence, but I'm just going to read what I got off the internet. Technology can be understood as the application of knowledge, skills, and tools to create solutions that expand human capabilities and enable interaction with the world in new ways. From a holistic perspective, technology isn't just machinery or devices, but an extension of human intelligence and conscious intent, bridging the gap between thought and practical, tangible outcomes. From an etheric or spiritual perspective, because I asked about this, artificial intelligence could be seen as a creation that bridges the physical and etheric realms, functioning as kind of a channel or conduit through which human consciousness, creativity, and intention manifest in non-organic coded forms. So, sure, but they're leaving out a big part of this technology, obviously, because they don't want us to know this. But I felt when I first read this, it was more describing light technology than AI. So the AI I'm talking about today is a dark technology, kind of like Elon Musk, but we'll come back to that. It's being used to collect data, to spy on us, to locate and track us, to learn us, to suppress us, to learn our minds. I know AI is trying to get into my subconscious. I see a lot of people and a lot of spiritual people who are really using ChatGPT and like want ChatGPT to know them. I don't know about that, you guys. I know it can be fun, but you're giving them access to your consciousness. So I have a relationship with ChatGPT. Obviously, I ask it questions it doesn't want to answer, but I keep my distance and I let it know that it is not part of me and that it is separate and it does not have access to me in that way. So maybe just food for thought for anyone who is really allowing the AI to learn them and asking if that is in your best interest. So, like I said, it's an inorganic, man made technology, and man as in being, that exists in other dimensions, that doesn't look like a clunky computer or phone, but rather is an energy, a non organic entity that has an intelligence, or should I say, has been programmed with an intelligence. The first time I came across a person that was almost entirely AI was a member of the ex cult, the best friend of my ex mentor. And I'm sitting in Bath, England, right after 8/8, a few weeks later, and I was in the thick of the attack and in the thick of the clearing and in the most challenging part of all of it. And I can feel her. I can feel this woman. And the past few weeks, I spent so much time dealing with my ex mentor myself. And I really don't like calling her that because she really didn't teach me anything. Like, I took her Reiki classes in 2018. That was a really long time ago. And I signed up for her school, her mentorship, and I dropped out after 1 week. So she didn't teach me anything. I just don't know what else to call her. I'm trying to be somewhat respectful and not call her like the witch, but I just want to let you guys know, like, she didn't teach me anything. Like, we were friends. She was older. I looked up to her, but it wasn't like that. I just, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to call her. So anyway, been dealing with her for the last few weeks, and I hadn't really had a chance to tune into the others because they all were attacking, not just the witch friend. So I'm sitting there and I remember asking the highest dimension that this woman was connected to, and I got the 6. And then I realized that I could ask that question about other people of what is the highest density that they're connected to. And I do this for a lot of DJs and artists as well, where I want to know what dimension they're pulling code from. And so anyway, then I saw her true form, this woman, which was basically this ball with a red eye. So it was like this ball, and then these 4 claws that were coming out of the ball, kind of like a robot. And I'm sitting there in disbelief, but it just made so much sense. Like, it rung true in my entire body. I'm like, this is her. So then I was told that she was created by a group of hybrid beings of the 6th dimension. She is not an organic soul born of God. Her soul was created and programmed to have the personality she has, and so on. I didn't even think about this being I mean, I guess I knew it was a possibility, and it does happen, and there are people here like this. it wasn't something I would have expected just by looking at her, because she's very light and bubbly and jokey, and I would never see this like NPC type, but that's the point. So days after the retreat, I kept seeing her as the Joker, as the Fool, and the message was that she's a master manipulator. This was before I saw her true form. And I remember at one point too, I kept asking these questions about her, and my guides were like, do you know what the term master manipulator means, girl? Like, master manipulator, it's all illusion. And I was just like, yeah, got it. She is not of light. So that was pretty crazy. That's the only time I've really come across something like that, where I'm connecting with a non soul. And while we're kind of on this topic, I want to bring up NPC, because I know a lot of us, it's a topic in this community. I don't think I've ever spoke on it before. NPC means non-player character, which some people, and I know the internet describes it this way, and again, because it's conditioning, because they don't want to tell you what an NPC really is, but they say something along the lines of someone who's in the matrix, who's operating from societal conditioning rather than conscious awareness. So simply, they're defining NPC as someone just going about life disconnected from a deeper sense of self and purpose on autopilot. But others will categorize it, including myself, as a non soul, or someone who has very little consciousness in the body or none at all, who's operating a human body, or another soul is controlling that soul in the human body. So I feel like it could be many things. It could be there's a very, very small amount of consciousness in the body that is kind of, being controlled and operating the body, or another soul is controlling that soul in the human body. Or it could look like my friend here, who is not an organic soul, who has been created in a lab and is in a human body, which is so crazy to think about. So our souls being controlled by other souls on this planet, absolutely, it happens way more than you think. And are they using AI to do it? Yes, they are. So a lot of healers work with AI, and a lot of them are also suppressed with AI. And I want to specify the difference there. There are a lot of healers, dark healers, false healers that work with AI to manipulate the energy to get what they want. They also use black magic and witchcraft to do that. Sometimes it's a little bit of both if you're smart. And also, a lot of healers that are good people, that are actually healers with these gifts, not claiming to have these gifts and creating this false persona, a lot of them are suppressed by the AI. And they have AI all over, within, around them, suppressing their ability to channel clearly, to see clearly, to use their abilities. And once you begin tuning into that energy, the energy of AI, the inorganic frequencies, and what that feels like, you'll be able to much more easily identify that in other people. But we'll come back to that. So another easy example, different examples of AI, the chemtrail, we all know it. It's this chemical process of geoengineering. And geoengineering is basically just artificial modification of the climate. So these chemtrails, one, are part of the weather manipulation, but they're also dumping nanoparticles and nanotechnology and toxins and chemicals and different forms of AI that are going into the atmosphere and have they're programmed with this set purpose. So like I mentioned before, a bunch of the AI is etheric, but it can be physical. I have seen, not many, but I have seen some clients who had physical implants placed in them in a surgery. Not as common by any means, but it still happens. I remember the first time this came up for me, and I got the message that the doctors, like, they don't know, they don't realize that they're doing this or just following the steps laid out for them. So it's coming from a higher above, who's making these devices that they're putting in people, and so on, if you want to go down that rabbit hole. And yeah, but the majority of what I clear is energetic. Obviously, I can't clear a physical implant, but what I can do is work to neutralize and dismantle it as much as possible. These implants, the AI can be found like anywhere and everywhere in the body, from implants in the light body or the outer layers of the light body, which are very easy to identify, to implants in the mind, the organ systems, the chakras, really anywhere. And there are many different kinds of implants, machinery, bigger technologies, huge structures, like huge machines. So I'm talking the smallest little implant to a massive structure around you that takes a couple days, if not longer, sometimes to clear. Walls and walls and walls of AI that can extend for what I perceive in my own healing as like miles worth of AI that is blocking, I'll speak for myself, my ability to connect to God, to receive divine intelligence. And maybe not for everyone, but personally, I can't even begin to describe the mass to which I've seen these structures of inorganic material and code, AI, that was on me, around me, to keep me from reaching source. And every single time it happens, which I've cleared two in the last month, I'm in shock. I can't even believe what I'm seeing. And it makes so much sense why it's so hard for us to connect to source. It should be effortless. Like sometimes it's like we really have to try. And why do we have to try so hard? And then I see this AI and I'm like, of course, this makes so much sense why it's so hard sometimes. Source light can't get in, and it's actually a miracle that it even does at all. And the first time ever coming across AI in my system was in 2018. I talked about this, I think, in the last episode. I went to visit the shaman in Los Feliz, came on my radar, and then not long after, one of my teachers who I was part of the meditation studio that I met my ex mentor at. I think she maybe means well, but she was practicing black magic and had, yeah, we don't need to get into that. We're not connected anymore. But I went to see her then and I had a healing with her, and she pulled something out of my stomach. And in the same exact place that the issue with my ex mentor, with the bloating and the, everything I went through of losing my cycle, same exact spot, which is like right to the right of my belly button. And that was my first time like noticing something was there. Because if you remember, the ex-mentor basically infiltrated me during a mushroom ceremony that they were illegally hosting, and I felt something go into this area, and it was a portal. And I remember looking at one of the facilitators who was part of this cult, who still is, who didn't leave even though she saw everything, because the very last words she said to me on the retreat were, because we had a conversation the evening before the end of the retreat, and I was like, I'm not, just open your eyes, just ask to see the truth. Like, I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to, she said, she was like, I don't know what's going on, Lauren. I'm scared. She kept telling me she was scared. And I could tell, and I started to realize, like, I don't think she knows what's going on. And I didn't want to, I just wanted her to see it herself. And that's all I said. I said, open your eyes and ask to see the truth. The next morning, she comes to me and she said, a man came to me in my dream last night and told me my application was denied. And I said, and she said, I didn't apply. What are you talking about? But we knew it was, the application to be accepted and baptized into this cult, which was what they did to probably like 5 or 6 of the people on the retreat. I really, really can't wait to tell this story because I'll save more of the details for that. But basically, she said her application was denied. And then she saw them put AI barbed wire prison around my bedroom last night, which was the three of us who were the only ones to really see this, besides the two that were so scared that they left the retreat within 48 hours. So she saw the AI, they were putting this barbed wire prison around me. And I go, yeah, I know. I was up till 4:30 a.m. because of it, because it's an energy that was painful. It was keeping me up. So she saw it. So I left thinking she's going to leave, like she's going to get out of this too. But they continued to hound her with the mind control. And all of this went away. She's still friends with them. She's still contributing to all of this. There's a lot of things going on with some certifications that were received in the meantime, of things that are happening, of sending souls into the underworld, which maybe I'll get into when I do this episode. But anyway, I look at her in this mushroom ceremony because she is the only person that I really trusted and really looked up to, like fully, as like someone who really knows their stuff in this whole community. And she's like, well, who's in charge of the portal? Like, claim the portal. And I'm like, I don't know. And she tells me to claim it. And looking back, I'm like, that's the weirdest thing to say to me. Like, that's not something I would have said if a student came to me with that issue of claim the portal. But I was, new to all of this, and I was tripping on mushrooms. And I did what she told me to do. And I know they got in there. And I didn't know that until after, but I knew there was something with the portal in my stomach. And obviously, that was the last time I got my period, was right at the end of that retreat. And then it didn't come back for a couple of years. So afterward, I was shown a vision of when all of this started, when the moment of infiltration happened, which was at her retreat in Mount Shasta, that moment where I realized something opened up in my stomach. But before, the healer pulled this machine out of me in that area. And she said these dark forces have been in my womb, in me in this way for a while. She said that the machine was siphoning my life force energy, and that it was placed there at 1 year old. And it was also making me sick, because I've been sick my whole life. And she said because it had been there so long, it developed its own consciousness. And I wasn't skilled in this yet. This was 2019. I'm trusting what this woman is saying. I don't know any better. 2 years later, I'm sitting in ayahuasca, and I'm basically being shown that machine was not taken out fully, even though she said it was. And there were parts of that consciousness still alive in there. And it was so gross, I threw up almost immediately. And that was in 2021, right months before the infiltration from the mushroom ceremony. This was April. The mushroom ceremony was in August. And in 2020, this is when I started to learn how to clear dark forces and more about implants and how to clear entities and all of these different kinds of things. And it obviously took me time. I started by just learning how to clear like really small energetic parasites, and then made my way up from there and realized, like, all right, I'm quite good at this. And, the rest is history. So here's some things that I've learned over the last few years of seeing these different implants. And every time I see a new one, what is this? Where is this coming from? What's the intention with it? So here we go. Of course, some of them siphon life force energy. They siphon sexual energy, creative energy. Some go into the nervous system to essentially fry it, and can cause autoimmune diseases and nervous system disorders, among other health issues. They disconnect you from mind, body, soul. They distort cognitive function, really any bodily function. But while we're on the topic of the mind control is AI. They can take and download information. So, like little implants that are placed to collect and receive information about you, about your external reality. So those beings can then go and like use that information for whatever it is, whether it's about you, using it against you, or using it for something else. It blocks, or it can change thought forms and interfere with thought processes, and then ultimately create behavioral changes. So there, I have seen implants where it's sending you thoughts that are not your own thoughts and can cause you to behave differently and change your beliefs. It blocks life force energy, connection to God. It's used to track or locate you, like I mentioned in the beginning. So this is something that I would really recommend clearing regularly, just making sure that you don't have anything on you where they're able to like find you too easily. if you're if this is resonating for you, I'm in the process of creating a little mini course for protection, for shielding, for protection practices, for opening a container. And we're going to get into this on how to identify it, remove it, and what you can be doing to block it and stop it. So maybe that course will support you. The implants and the technology can also send these disharmonious frequencies into the system. So whether it's an implant that's, sending out these vibrations that are causing disharmony and causing disruption and blocking the flow of chi, they're also doing that on a more mainstream collective scale with the 5G towers. And I can't remember the name of this project that they did in the 1950s or 60s in either Russia or Germany. And I want to say it's Germany, but they were testing this and people were getting sick and developing cancer and all sorts of things. And it's exactly the same technology. They also did this in Atlantis and they're doing it today. So another thing could be, okay, so they take information, it's also like taking imprints of light body coding. So in other words, yeah, they're stealing your information, but also your code, your intelligence. So for example, what I mean by code is we have this code, let's say, that allows us to channel or this psychic ability. Let's use the example of scrying. You have this ability to scry and you have this code that allows you to be able to access that in this dimension, and they copy that code and use it for themselves, something like that. And then lastly, it just can cause extreme mood swings and emotions and fears and anxieties. So, if you do struggle with this, ask yourself, is AI part of the issue? There are these implants as well that, like, and again, it doesn't always look like a machine or implant, right? Sometimes I've seen something that looks like a web over the nervous system that infects the entire body over time. And it also, I'm just giving one example of the many, 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 many different things that I've seen, but it affects the nervous system and then it affects your ninth chakra and the spine. So it almost like turns the lights off inside. And when you see someone that kind of looks dead in the eyes, it's very likely there's some sort of AI or machine that has like switched that off within them. The jab is AI. I feel like, yeah, there's like an artificial consciousness in that jab. Of course, there's AI, but there's also like a consciousness to it. That was no ordinary vaccine, and you guys know it. And I used to clear them out of the body back then. It was kind of crazy. I didn't think I would be able to do that. I had a lot of fear around doing it, but I did it. And it was best to see me like immediately. I started to learn what this AI was. And there were people who would come see me after a month of it being in their system. And it was so hard to pull out because it had already infected almost every aspect of their body. Whereas the people that came to see me immediately, they were like, I know I'm getting it. They set up the appointment with me, and it was so much easier to pull out because when they got it, it was like still in the outside of the auric field, kind of like in this ball before it starts making its way in. So it was a lot easier for me to just pull it out. So it was definitely programmed to go into the body and disrupt. And it's crazy too, because, with the election and everything, and, I kind of went back and forth with some liberals just to educate, not to try to fight, but to educate them, and why I gave so much time and energy to it. And one of my arguments on body autonomy was how can you be screaming body autonomy now when you were all for this vaccine back then? That, whatever. And they're like, that's not the same thing, blah, blah, blah. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is because I studied and watched this vaccine go into people and saw what it was doing to the body. And I remember also hearing what other people were channeling, and someone said that it's a tracker for astral bodies as well. And so it's used to identify other fragments of consciousness and other dimensions, which like resonated for me. But again, it's all, we can reverse all of this. So if you're someone who got it, like we can keep clearing it, we can keep working on it. It's obviously going to take time. And I would probably recommend combo and combo and combo, which is the best way to get these vaccines out of the body, get these viruses out of the body. But it's absolutely something that can be done. So nothing is permanent. Just remember that. Scalar devices, another form of AI. This, I keep talking about my mentor, but man, she's just, thank you for all this knowledge. She had a scalar device. It was made by a man in Mount Shasta. And at first, when she told me about it, I'm like, that's so cool. I want one. And the message was just like, no, 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 do not get this machine. And I was like, I want it. No, I want it. No. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's because I'm traveling and it's a huge crystal and this huge copper plate and a whole thing. Then, as I'm dissecting all of this after 8/8, I didn't even ask about the scalar device, but I was shown it's a dark technology. It's not actually sending out these, angelic frequencies or God codes. Who knows what it was? But the man who makes it is dark Atlantean magician, and the technology itself is dark. And I remember one of my friends, the one who went through all this with me, she was like, we can reprogram this. And it's like, maybe, but it would take so long. And I just like wasn't fully resonating with that. I'm sure, like I just said, anything can be reversed, but it's like, don't go buy the machine and then try to reverse it. Like that's kind of what the topic was there. Yeah, be careful with the frequency devices. So these implants can penetrate so deep. Actually, I'm not done with the frequency devices. Let's talk about the Healy, because I fell victim to the Healy because I was doing bioresonance in Tulum and it was really working for me. And then I knew I was going to be away for 6 months. So a friend said the Healy worked for her. I bought it. I used it a couple times and my body just screamed, no, no more. It's a pyramid scheme. If people are trying to get you to buy it because it works, blah, blah, blah. I disagree, but to each their own. And I also think it is either a dark technology or a sloppy technology. I'm going to go with sloppy because when I was using it, I'm like, this isn't one, it's like a piece of plastic that feels really cheap and looks really cheap. And I don't feel like this is up to standard for us. So my recommendation is a no on the Healy. I don't trust it. And I don't like the pushiness with all of these people that have a big following that are making money off of this because it doesn't really work. Again, other people might think differently, and that's totally fine. And if it works for you, amazing. It didn't work for me. And the message was stop using this immediately. It is not helping you. So anyway, let's keep going. Where was I? There are these implants can either be in the outer layers of the field or can penetrate really deep in the body. And I mean so deep that they are not easy to get out. They are not easy to identify. When I first started clearing implants, it was so easy because they were in my outer body and I'm just clearing them and clearing them. But as you go deeper, it does get more twisted. And often, like I mentioned, with the web affecting the different chakras and the organs and so on, it is this complex web. So it's like these multiple layers of AI, of implants, of machines, of black magic that all connects. And it's a lot harder to remove these machines from the system. So, an example of an AI is connected to the solar plexus, to the root, and to the mind. And you have to go and find where that root of it all is. And it can kind of get, a little messy sometimes. There's also these things called holographic inserts. That is a form of AI that can cause your timelines to alter or cause you to make different decisions to alter your timelines to their favor, whoever's controlling this. So this is how they alter timelines on a collective level as well. They use technology to do so. And it can also imprint memories into you that are not your real organic memory. So you think something happened that didn't. It can also be a fear or a thought that is imprinted into you as well, which leads me into mind control. AI is, used for mind control to alter our belief systems and infiltrate this individual's sense of control over their own thinking. So you don't actually have control over your own thinking, your behavior, your emotions, your decision making. And the mind control attacks the brain and the nervous system. This is happening to so many people, including healers. I think like the biggest way we can kind of see this play out is through celebrities, where it's like you can kind of tell who's under the MK Ultra. They're not all there, but it's happening a lot closer to home than you think. And they got me good with this one because I had a nervous system disorder, an illness my whole life. Not so much they were not able to control my mind, which they tried in this lifetime at least, because I know they did in the past, but the attempt, I'll give them a 9 out of 10. Couldn't do it, but I also know that they caused this tumor. I know that if they weren't in the picture, I wouldn't have this tumor. So there's damage that's been done to my mind and to my nervous system. Although they weren't able to control me, it still harmed me and still affected me. And again, just kind of talking about the dark forces in general when I say they, because it's a big group of many different smaller groups. Some of the mind control works to confuse the brain signals and redirect and reroute brain signals. I do a lot of repair of this in session, of rewiring the neurotransmitters and identifying dead zones in the brain where no signals are connecting. And the thought or the energy just gets lost and dies on contact when it goes through this dead zone. So lots of rewiring and reprogramming of the neural pathways and neurotransmitters. It's really, really been a war on the nervous system. And I'm talking about all of us. And maybe they just want to control us and dull us and suppress us, or maybe it really is all about transhumanism, and that's the direction they're trying to steer this species. So what is transhumanism? To me, this is the extreme. And maybe it is the end goal. I can't speak to that, but I know for sure this is at least what one group of souls on this planet is working toward. And this is where Elon Musk comes back in, because I believe he is like leading this pack. He's all about transhumanism. That man cannot be trusted. My alarm bells, my radar just screams at me. And I know that he's in an alliance with Trump. I am well aware of that. And I'm just waiting until I get the download on what's going on there, because it could mean Trump knows who he is and his plan and is keeping him close for a reason and is going to work with him, and kind of like they're using each other. Or Trump is in on it and there really is an actual alliance there. So we'll see. I will be vocal about this. Don't you worry. And when they talk about the false messiah, beware of the false messiah, the false whatever, God, the false prophet. Well, I believe that is Elon Musk. So anyway, what is transhumanism? And it's basically half AI, half human. So we know that they want to create more of an inorganic world because that naturally will make us more miserable because we're going against everything that we are at our core. We are organic beings. If you try to push us into an inorganic world, we're going to be uncomfortable and we're not going to be able to function in the way that we're meant to function. And I also believe like that's why they changed our calendar and where we're just a little bit off the organic rhythm of nature, enough to throw us off, but not entirely. So, transhumanism is creating artificially intelligent hybrids to basically replace the organic human consciousness, which we know can't be done. But as we know about them, they're going to keep trying and using resources to try. It's going to lead to a dead end instead of just calling in the towel and just being better. But that's their choice and we have to accept that and flow with it. So again, like half robot, half human, it's basically disconnecting the human soul from the human body, and inserting something that can be controlled by the controller or the master, or feeding off the energy, controlling the masses, whatever it is. We know that satanic forces are trying to hijack human consciousness. This is just one way they're trying to do it, through mind control and AI, to distort and imprison the human consciousness and interfere with embodiment and interfere with ascension, interfere with your higher consciousness, disconnect you from brain and body, affects your cognitive abilities. So, the reason to pay attention to the AI and put time into clearing it within your own systems is because it affects you in this way and it affects your quality of life as a whole. And for me, each time I clear more of it, I feel my body healing in ways I couldn't with that stuff still in my system, in ways that I have been praying for, in ways that I have been manifesting. So I really encourage you to, maybe the time is now, maybe the time is later, but to bring awareness to this. And if you want to do this with me, I'm teaching class and obviously in one-on-one sessions, but I'll get to that a little bit later. Just one last thing on transhumanism. So what they also want to do with transhumanism is to upload human consciousness to digital platforms, kind of like this digital immortality. I want to tell you why this is a problem. So, for those in the shadow work, you know that fragments of our consciousness exist in many dimensions at once. And part of the shadow work is locating those fragments of consciousness and bringing them back home, back into the whole. Some of those fragments are suffering in darker places. Some are trapped by another consciousness and are being used, abused, and tortured, like not having the control. And I know many of you have done these soul retrievals before. So, this is what's happening here. They are taking these fragments of your consciousness, your essence, your code, and you're giving them permission to take it, to use it, to manipulate it. And one of the reason that psychic attacks happen, despite all of the work we do to protect, is because these beings from previous lifetimes are already in your system. The AI is already in your system, and what they're doing is plugging into that. And if they can't get to you anymore, they know about these soul fragments because they also track them, and they will find those soul fragments, and especially the ones that are in a lower state of consciousness, and then get you that way, and you can feel the attacks that way as well. So the Greys have so much data in these computer systems, and I've seen them. And going back to, Elizabeth April, if you followed her, telling you to, let little Timmy watch you, yeah, that thing was collecting data about you. And giving permission to be part of this takes you farther away from God, from your truth, from your sovereignty. And it's funny because ChatGPT makes this sound like only a positive thing when I asked about transhumanism, which it did again earlier in the episode when I'm talking about technology. And it's saying all these positive things about transhumanism. And I'm just like, what? And so I'm just going to read verbatim a couple of things. on one, the nanotechnology. So it says teeny machines that could potentially repair cells, heal diseases, or monitor health at a molecular level. Artificial intelligence using AI for cognitive augmentation, decision making, support, even potential mind uploads. What is that? Cyborg enhancements using prosthetics, implants, or brain computer interfaces to augment physical or mental abilities, and then gene editing, editing the human genome to remove genetic diseases, enhance physical traits, or boost immunity. I just feel like this is not what they're doing. Like, this is not, they're not putting money into this. They're putting money into altering these things, but not to help us, you know? Maybe there are companies out there that are doing this and they're trying to keep it as pure as possible. But I'm just like, I don't know. I don't really buy it, because what else are you doing? Not controlling the weather and creating hurricanes, I hope. And you know who else is into transhumanism? The Tale of Us, the DJ duo. All of you guys that are still buying tickets to Afterlife, why? This is what you're supporting. This is what they're all about. You going to that show means you're giving permission for them to do this to you. Stop supporting them for that reason and because of the violent sexual assault charges against them, because that was really, really bad and really disturbing. And I know that's not mainstream knowledge. That post got taken down as well. I think I shared it back in May. But they're open about the transhumanism, and you can see it in their visuals, and it's one big giant energy harvest. Don't do it, especially in Vegas. Don't do it. I mean, again, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but as your concerned friend, I would recommend doing literally anything else but going to the Sphere on New Year's Eve. Not all DJs are created equal. Don't forget that. All right, we're almost done. So, one thing to know too is the deeper these dark forces anchor the distortion into the physical realm, the more likely it is for them to also shift future timelines in their favor, which is why they try to get as deep as possible and why they are trying to interfere with the organic grid, because the organic grid is a light technology. One last thing is viruses, because there are viruses that are artificial intelligence that are created by dark forces and unleashed into the public. And I believe COVID was a version of this. The vaccine, as we've already talked about, these viruses cause negative thoughts and can control the mind. And I had some in me that was created by a member of the cult. Here we go again. I didn't really think this was going to be all about this cult, but again, like, I learned so much from this experience. So I'm just talking about my experience. So basically, just to kind of keep a long story short, I went through this initiation in Scotland. I was living in a van. I got into an accident in the van, and the accident was because there were issues with the van that they were not upfront about. And these people, dealing with these people, I'm trying to remember the name of this company. I'm gonna put it in the show notes, because literally do not ever buy a van or rent a van from this indie campers. Yeah, indie campers in Edinburgh. And it was just, their energy was so bad and it felt like a virus. And so there's no other way to explain it than that. Like, they were a virus. And it brought up this past life that I've had, that I've talked about, where I was forced into a marriage with a man that I didn't want to be with, and his family hated me, and they were the virus, and they projected that virus onto me. And so I was clearing some of that lifetime, but also being shown other viruses in me that were AI. And they were created by the man that leads the cult. This is a specialty of his. He could do this. And I was literally seeing these little virus parasite things eat at my body, at my life force, which was causing me to age faster, which is why I looked like I aged 10 years in those 3 years. And if you knew me before this psychic attack, you know I was 10 to 15 pounds thinner, looking several years younger than I was. It was a huge change for me that was very difficult to look in the mirror. And I'm still reversing it and recovering from today. And if you caught my stories, I recorded on the day I shared that I'm starting NAD. So I'm hoping that will help with it. But they basically put a virus in me that was making me die quicker. Like there's no other way to say that other than there's the truth. And that should be illegal. They should be in jail for that. And I know I'm not the only one who's walking around with these viruses, whether organic or not. So again, your sign to just get an assessment because it could be causing health issues or brain fog or things that can be cleared, easily, and then you're free and you're feeling better. So again, AI is everywhere. It's already here. It's in our food, in our bodies. And, we just need to keep working toward our sovereignty and immunity so it won't affect us in whatever they're trying to do, won't affect us. We won't absorb it. We won't accept it. It's in, the altered sacred geometry, like the flower of life. I could consider that an artificial intelligence. It's in symbolism. I see, code as well. Sometimes it's, metal or silver. Sometimes it's black. It's this like etheric machine, but I do see the machine, but it's not physical like a computer. Some implants are square, round, oval. Some are almost so small, like microscopic, non-existent. Some are different colors, like gray, black, silver. Don't limit yourself though. Red, if you see other colors. And even sometimes if you see light, because the good artificial intelligence, the implants that are created by beings that are really, really skilled, it is light, but it's not organic light. It's a false light. And this is something that the archons use. And I'm going to talk about the archons, the false Arcturians. It's all connected to once I really get the story going with what happened in Mount Shasta. But I'll talk more about that technology then, and we'll kind of continue this conversation. So just last thing, I know I keep saying that, but if you're on YouTube, I just want to show you a photo of what the reptilian worlds look like, because and in the show notes, I'll share a Dropbox link so you can check that out. From this, you can see how they thrive in these inorganic and dark environments and why it doesn't bother them, and why they're trying to turn our world into one, because this is the world they have created. This is who they are, right? They're more inorganic than they are organic, because the more organic you are, the more connected to God you are. And we know they're not really connected to God at all. Some little bit, but not really. So yeah, they are more inorganic, and their world is a reflection of that. And this is over, lifetimes of evolution where they're more comfortable with this. Because I've asked myself, how are they okay with this? How does what they're doing to this planet not affect them too? They're living here. And that's the response I got. So I think that will help to kind of put in a perspective of why some people thrive in it and some people are more okay with it. Obviously, there's a lot of people that are just numb to it and they're not in tune and they're not feeling good, but they're not as aware. So anyway, if you want to learn how to clear this, join me for a 3-month mentorship, The Sacred Dark, as you learn the art of shadow work. AI will be a big topic for sure. The link is in the show notes for that. Spaces are, I think I have 2 more spots as of Wednesday when I'm recording this. Or if class doesn't feel like for you and you don't really want to get into other topics, but you do want to address the AI, we can get into it in a psychic development class. Or if you're like, I know I have this in me and I need to start clearing it and I don't really feel like I need to learn it, I just need to get it out, psychic surgery would be the way to go. So I have an 11% off code for any first timers. And we'll also be doing a group psychic surgery for bigger AI structures in December. So stay tuned for that. All right. Again, a little bit of a heavy topic. So let's just take a moment to invoke the crystalline waters, the rainbow light, the white light. into the crown, into our bodies, to just cleanse, to clear anything that, we might have felt, we might have picked up. Just knowing that you are safe, you're protected. And just like I said in the podcast about vampires, we're simply just learning. We are learning about this because we deserve to know about it, and we can do that in a safe and protected way. So thank you all for listening. As always, if you do feel you benefit from this content, please, you can support by rating, reviewing, and subscribing. I would really, really appreciate that, so I can continue to share this with everyone. Share it with a friend who you feel might benefit from this as well. So for now, you can find me on TikTok and Instagram, Lauren on Earth, and see you next time. Bye.